Hey everyone, so I briefly mentioned in my last video how Fleet Week is coming in just a few weeks, starting the 21st, and CIG had just announced it. Well, it seems like they really want to build up the hype because through information that we've gotten in official tweets, leaks, and forum responses, there's a lot to look forward to. So today I wanted to go over those things, but if you want Fleet Week to be a surprise, then you probably don't want to watch this video. Before we start though, if you do end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and or subscribing, I really appreciate it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the involvement of the UEE Navy as part of the Fleet Week events and what to expect from that. So last year they were involved as well, but all that we got to see was a relatively small fleet consisting of 2 Idrises and a Javelin, and they'd fly around the Stanton system and dock at the major planetary stations, launch off some fireworks, but that was about it. You could fly somewhat close to them or EVA around their exteriors, but you couldn't do much besides that after CIG patched up the methods that people were using to crash or steal the various capitals. They would also fight back when you shot at them, but I believe CIG eventually ended up making them invincible, so that wasn't all that much fun for too long. And also, these versions of the ships didn't have interiors, so even when players were able to glitch inside, there wouldn't be anything to see. This year though, we're actually going to be able to tour Javelin, and I think that's going to be a really awesome experience. I wasn't expecting this to happen at all, but CIG has confirmed it in a response on Spectrum. I had figured that they'd want to keep the interior of the Javelin under wraps until Squadron 42, just like they want to do with the Idris, but we're going to actually be able to see at least a portion of the ship in just a few weeks. And as long as they manage to get it worked out in time, this will be an awesome opportunity to demo the new ship-to-station docking. It seems to be working with some ships in the PTU quite well already, like the 890 Jump and the Hammerhead, so as long as they don't encounter any issues with it, it should be ready to go by Invictus. Now as for what we're going to be able to see on the Javelin, we've actually got some insight on this too, thanks to some audio files that the people over at SCLeaks dug out of the most recent PTU patch. I've got them linked down below, so you can go and check out the actual audio files that they found over there on their channel, but I'm going to go over what's in them, so if you want the tour to be a surprise, then go ahead and stop watching now. So what they found is some recordings for different tour guides, and from what it seems like, there's going to be a different crew member in a number of areas, and each one of them will tell you about the specific area that they're located in. So the areas that there are recordings for are the barracks, a briefing room, one of the turret batteries, which even has audio that makes it seem like we'll be able to get into one of the turrets, and lastly the mess hall. So this is a pretty wide selection of areas aboard the ship, and hopefully we'll even get to see some cool hallways, maybe even some with nice exterior views on our way around the ship. I do hope we'll get to see some other areas too, like the bridge and the hangar, and they're still just working on those, which is why they aren't included yet. But I do remember from their discussions about Xenothreat that it takes a long lead time to get dialogue into the game, so this might be all we get to see. I will be interested to see though if they've made a special Javelin with only certain areas actually existing and the rest of the ship just empty to keep people from glitching into it and finding other stuff, or if they'll just have some of the parts locked off. On one hand, CIG usually doesn't seem to like to do work that won't be used later on, and making a special tour version of the Javelin to be used for just 1 week kinda seems like that. On the other hand though, they have been saying that a large part of the reason that the ships that were used for stuff like the recent Xenothreat event didn't have interiors yet was due to server performance and the fact that they haven't fully worked out interior culling yet. Maybe this isn't the actual reason, and they just didn't want people seeing stuff early, but server performance is definitely rough at the moment, so every little thing that the server doesn't have to deal with is gonna help. So yeah, I'm a bit torn on what to expect from this, but I don't think they'll have the whole ship in the files because someone will figure out a way to explore it, and it seems like they still do want to keep some stuff secret. And while I think they're probably not going to include the bridge as part of the tour for now, since they probably want to keep that as a surprise, I'm sure that if they do let us anywhere near it, they're definitely going to have that pilot seat locked down extremely well this time. What do you guys expect though? They have made mistakes in the past, like last year when people were able to steal the F-8 Lightning, which is supposed to be the UEE Navy's premier fighter, so that was a pretty big mistake, but people had a lot of fun with it. So do you expect similar shenanigans this year? I hope we see some, but maybe they've learned their lesson. So I was already really excited to hear about the Javelin tours, but something that's at least as exciting as that is that there's going to be a Bengal flying around, at least for a limited time. For those of you not familiar with the ship, this is one of the largest ships in the game. The Javelin is already pretty massive at a length of 480 meters, but the Bengal carrier is just huge at 990 meters. I can imagine the FPS drops already. But on a serious note, I am really looking forward to seeing the Bengal in game, and to see if it's changed since the last time it leaked out. Even ships that are small compared to the Bengal, like the 890 jump at just over 200 meters, still seem massive, so I really can't wait to see what the Bengal is going to be like. And yeah, as surprising as this is basically confirmed to be happening with more in-game audio files that announce it, and the RSI Twitter sort of even confirming it by tweeting out a picture of a Bengal cat. I think there is a possibility that this could get cut as part of the event if it makes the server performance really bad, but the fact that they've tweeted about it makes me really hopeful, and I do hope that we get to see it, because that's just going to be really cool. But yeah, even though we won't be seeing any of the interior of the ship most likely, a ship that's almost a kilometer long will definitely be a sight to see, and I can't wait for this. So that's about it for the fleet part of Fleet Week, but there's also the expo. So moving on to that expo, there's a few things to look forward to here as well. So this one's going to be taking place in New Babbage this year instead of Area 18, so I do hope they've hired enough elevator technicians to avoid the issues we had with the IAE late last year. But yeah, just like last year, we'll have the usual event festivities of a free fly, an expo hall packed with ships to try out for free, and a ship sale. And while last year's Fleet Week was a bit of a disaster since CIG wasn't really ready for the player counts and the event ended up lasting a few extra days to make up for the issues they had, I expect it'll go pretty smoothly this time around since IAE was pretty okay, besides those elevator issues. So the schedule for this year is actually pretty similar to the last one, where each manufacturer or set of manufacturers sticks around for 2 days and you can demo their ships and buy them as part of the ship sale. Also, expect to see some holoviewer models of ships that are either in production or will be in production at a later date. I also expect to see a lot more of the Warbond deal CCUs, which can be a nice way to get a good deal on a more expensive ship if you chain a few of them together, so keep an eye out for those if you're looking at getting your hands on a ship you can CCU to. Also, if you're looking to pick up a certain ship in particular, they tend to become available on the days that their manufacturer is in the expo hall, so if you know one of the ships you want is limited, you'll want to make sure that you look at the schedule. It's pretty annoying how they make you deal with that sort of thing just to buy a ship, but I don't expect them to change it anytime soon, so we're just gonna have to deal with it, I guess. But yeah, the order that the manufacturers will be in the hall got announced along with the announcement for the date, and on the first 2 days we have RSI, Consolidated Outland, Argo, and Origin. Then the next 2 days are Aegis, then the 2 after that are dedicated to Crusader, Tumbril, and Misk, and Anvil will wrap up the main expo event. After that, Drake has their own sort of thing for another 2 days, just like last year. If they do it the same way as last year, they'll put them somewhere near the expo hall, but not actually in it, which I think is pretty funny, because the reasoning for this in the verse is that they weren't invited to the expo, but they just happened to set up their own event called Drake Interplanetary Defense Con to coincide with Fleet Week. And then something a bit different for this year is the finale that's listed for the 2 days after that. So I'm not sure quite what to expect for that, but maybe they'll do something like put all the ships back on sale again for 2 days, or maybe those 2 days will be the only opportunities to see the Bengals or something like that. Whatever the case is, I expect there will be a lot of things to see and a lot of ships to try out. So in addition to being a nice mid-year opportunity to shuffle your fleet around, we also usually get a new concept, or sometimes even a few with these events. Last year's Origin G12 rover was a little underwhelming in my opinion, just because ground vehicles aren't that useful right now and are also a really bad value for real money, but this year it seems like we'll be getting something exciting. Again, thanks to Star Citizen leaks, it seems pretty likely that we're gonna finally be seeing a fighter from RSI, and with RSI, or Roberts Space Industries, kind of being Chris Roberts' ship brand, we can probably expect it to be pretty good. Now I don't think we have any info on what class of fighter it's gonna be, but I'm really hoping that it's another heavy fighter. At the moment we have a ton of light fighters, a decent selection of medium fighters, but really only one heavy fighter with the Vanguard series. Now these are solid ships, and they fit a variety of roles with a standard fighter, bomber, dropship, and E-warfare variant, but the series has their unique quirks like having to deal with the 4 fixed size 2 weapons that you can't swap out for standard weapons. So yeah, I hope we get a heavy fighter from RSI to give us an alternative in that role, and I think that the RSI design language could look really cool as a heavy fighter. I'm expecting to see something like a Mantis, but more aggressive looking, and the Mantis already looks pretty awesome. As for what specialties it might have or what special capabilities it'll focus on, I think it would be cool to see a stealth heavy fighter, since the Vanguard, like I mentioned earlier, has a lot of the other roles covered, and we have a stealth ship for pretty much every other class of ship, with the Talon for the light fighters, the Hornet Ghost and the Saber for medium fighters, and even a stealth dropship with the Prowler. And who can forget the Eclipse and Retaliator, which are stealth bombers. But even if it doesn't end up being a stealth heavy fighter, even just another basic brawler would be very welcome in my opinion. So yeah, depending on what this RSI concept ship ends up being, we could have another really cool addition to the verse. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to have been any news on the Origin 400i, which is unfortunate because I am really looking forward to that ship, or hopefully seeing it at some point, but it probably doesn't really make sense to unveil that at Fleet Week, since Fleet Week is mainly focused on military ships, and the 400i is probably going to be just another luxury touring ship. Alright, so that's about all we have now on Fleet Week, and I have all of the stuff that I referenced for info about it linked down below if you want to check it out for yourself, but there's quite a lot to look forward to. I didn't even mention that the C2 and M2 Starlifter should be out by that time too, along with the Nova tank, so expect those large hangars at New Babbage Interplanetary Spaceport to be pretty full. But yeah, with the Javelin tour, a Bengal flyby, and the usual variety of ships to try out, it should be a pretty fun event, as long as there aren't too many technical difficulties. I'm excited for it, but let me know how you guys feel about it. I know a few people were a bit frustrated with last year's Fleet Week, but I think that was mostly because of the issues that the free fly caused, which we hopefully shouldn't be seeing this year, although with all the new things that they're trying to squeeze in, there is a chance for it. Also, feel free to share any of the changes you plan on making to your fleet, and what you hope the new RSI ship ends up being like down in the comments below. I'm really hoping for that heavy fighter, but let me know what you guys think. Anyway, that's all I have for this video, so I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like and or subscribe. Thanks for watching.